guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's the day. Okay, so for like a year and a half, I've been wanting to make a certain doll, and if you read the title, and you probably know what that doll is, I'm finally making a Sailor Moon themed doll. It almost seems like a rite of passage to make a Sailor Moon doll repaint video if you have a YouTube doll repaint channel. There's just quite a few of them up, and a lot of them are really cool. And I wanted to make one too, because honestly, I just want to own a Sailor Moon doll. Like, this has everything to do with me, and not necessarily anything to do with what my audience, I think, wants to see. I do think though that there is a bit of a overlap between doll repaint enthusiasts and Sailor Moon enthusiasts, so this video is for you guys, and also just very much for me. I think one of my favorite character designs from Sailor Moon, and this is kind of saying a lot because there's so many, but I think my favorite is probably Neo Queen Serenity, so that's what I'm going to be making into a doll today. There's a couple different versions of Neo Queen Serenity, and specifically I got inspiration from the Sailor Moon Crystal version of her. For a base, I used the Back to School Michelle Mermaid doll, and I have a quick little rant. So the Back to School Michelle Mermaid doll and the original Michelle Mermaid doll are completely different face molds. And it's the strangest thing because they just gave her a normal signature reboot face mold for the Back to School doll, instead of what was in the promotional images for the Back to School doll, which is the original Michelle Mermaid face mold. And I just have questions, like genuinely, who is she? I've never encountered something like this. Anyway, I chose to go with this base because the reboot heads are a little bit smaller than the original Ever After High doll heads, and also they have a molded on smile, which whenever I think about Neo Queen Serenity or Sailor Moon characters, I kind of just think about smiling. Maybe that's because they make me happy, I don't know, but it just felt like it suited it well. If y'all are familiar with prepping a doll for a repaint, I cut her hair off and then I put her head in hot water to heat up the vinyl so her head's easy to pop off. Then I popped her head off, and then I scraped around the inside of her head with a screwdriver to get all the glue plugs out, pulled all that glue out through her neck hole with needle nose pliers, and then wiped the paint off her face with 100% acetone nail polish remover. Onto her hair. So there's a couple different versions or different hair colors for Neo Queen Serenity. There is white, there's silver, and there is blonde. And I decided to go with silver because it's just my favorite version of her. So I painted her head gray with some acrylic paint. You do this because when you're rerooting, if there's any gaps in the reroot, this will just disguise it a little bit. Alright, so on to hair. Rerooting this doll was a nightmare. Don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to. So I first used the Doll Planet's nylon doll hair and smoke, and I rerooted her whole head, and came to realize really far into the process of rerooting her head that I just overplugged the ever-living crap out of it, and it just wasn't gonna work. So I attempted to rip all the hair out of her head and redo it with yarn, and the head was just basically completely, like, it was too ruined to attempt to glue back together and use. So I had to redo it completely on a different doll head. I used a Blondie Locks reboot doll head. It's okay. It's really not okay because these reboot dolls are kind of hard to come by, so it was frustrating, but I rerooted her hairline all the way down her part, her bangs, and the little hair on the side of her face. And I actually came to realize, which I wanted to show you guys, that even though these two reboot heads are supposed to be the same, the first one that I rerooted was actually a little bit bigger. I just thought it was interesting, so I wanted to show y'all. Anyway, after that nightmare, I glued all the hair in place with Fabri-Tac glue. Before I get onto her face up, I wanted to tie her hair back into pigtails, and I'm securing those in place with some wire, which is probably the best method of securing doll hair into place, in my opinion. I actually learned that from Enchantarium, so thanks, girls. Onto the face up. So I spray the doll 3 times Mr. Super Clear, waiting 15 minutes between each spray and wearing a respirator mask, and then I start drawing. So for the eyes, I am doing this doll in my style, but I kind of wanted to still incorporate the anime look that I guess I'm perceiving. So I wanted to give her really big almond shaped eyes, because when I look at the anime eyes, I see them as being very gigantic, and then also they kind of look a little bit almond shaped to me, or at least that's how it would translate, in my opinion, into a realistic eye. Or I don't really think my style is realistic, but I guess like a semi-realistic sort of eye, or just by style. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. And I made the irises like super big, which is gonna be really fun to paint, and I'm excited for. For her lips, I saw a couple of Ever After High doll repaints where people overlined the lips and just made them look a little bit bigger, and I thought it looked really good. So I am extending mainly her upper lip and making it slightly poutier or bigger, and I'm also sketching in a slight part to her lips because I just wanted a little bit of teeth showing. I blushed around her face with pink, red, blue, and brown. If y'all have been around this channel for a minute, then you know that I like blotchy blush. I feel like this doll's blush isn't too blotchy, but to get that kind of look where it looks a little bit, I guess, like rosy, kind of blotchy looking, I use a spiky sort of brush. It's actually like a liner brush for liquid liner or makeup liner, but it's really crappy, so it's really like spiked out, and that's what I get this look with. Veins! Sailor Moon needs veins. I mean, don't we all? So I'm adding some veins around her eyes and her forehead. I'm just doing a branch-like pencil mark in those areas with a light blue watercolor pencil. I'd say Sailor Moon or Queen Serenity have more medium blue eyes, so I am creating a dark blue to medium blue ombre on the iris. I feel like I've sung the praises of these Prismacolor pencils before, but like, damn. Come through, blue. It just is like so pigmented. It's so good. They are kind of soft, which is kind of like great because they're so pigmented, but also kind of crappy because they don't hold a point super well. But for like filling in like iris colors, they're really nice. I'm starting to begin the highlights with pastels and also pencils around her eyes, her lips, and also her nose. I seem to have lost the footage of me giving her like the initial stages of her eyebrows with an ashy brown pastel. I decided to go with brown pastel instead of silver just because I wanted her eyebrows to be a little bit more softer, a little bit more subtle than I normally do. I didn't want them to stand out too much, and I wanted to make them straight and kind of thin because that's just what they read to me as being in the anime. For the eyebrow hair, typically I go in with pencil and then I go in with paint over top of it, but I opted out of doing that with this doll because I just wanted the eyebrows, like I wanted there to be like a hair-like texture there, but I didn't want it to like stand out so much that your eye is like really drawn to it. And to be honest, I really like how they turned out. Like I like how soft they are. Like they still feel like soft eyebrows, but they're not overly intense, and I kind of like how thin they are, which is just sort of different for me. With white watercolor, I'm adding the more intense highlight lines around the eyes and the lips. I'm also going in and going over, like I mentioned in the beginning, her lips are like slightly parted, so I want her teeth to show a little bit, so I'm just coloring that in with the white watercolor as well. To make the whites of the eyes look a little bit more 3D, I'm tapping black pastel right underneath the upper eyelid, and also going in with a little bit of blue watercolor pencil and just kind of shading that area. I like giving my dolls like a halo or a highlight effect around the iris, so I'm doing that with a light blue watercolor, and I'm just kind of outlining that area. After I'm done outlining it, I go over the left side with a bit of metallic blue watercolor. I then dot some of the metallic blue watercolor onto the pupil. She needs glitter. Someone get her some glitter. She needs a little euphoria moment, alright? Well, she's like an otherworldly celestial being, so we need to put macro Pearlix pigment all over her face. I gave her eyeliner with my silver metallic watercolors. Alright, let's talk about the eye details. So, at first I did what I normally do, which is this, and I decided that I hated it. And then I tried out a more anime type thing, and I decided that I hated that, and I had to have like removed the paint from these eyes like at least 4 times. And then I just was like, you know what, let's try out kind of a more sort of realistic iris approach, which is why I'm giving the reflections in the eyes a little bit more of like a sketchy quality. And I wanted to try that, like, I really don't know what it's called, but when you see people paint realistic eyes and the highlights are real kind of like squiggly and sort of veiny looking. I've been wanting to try this approach to eyes for a while, but I was scared that I would do it and then not really get the effect. But I think I got it. Like, I think it looks pretty much like how that looks on eyes. And I really like how this part turned out. I began giving her eyelashes with my Faber-Castell watercolor pencil in black. This is my favorite lash pencil just because it has a harder lead, so it gives you a more sort of sharp line than the softer leaded watercolor pencils do. It's not the darkest black, but I'm going to go over it with paint anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I really like putting a reflective Pearlix powder on the lower lashes, so in this case I'm using Interference Violet. I'm just tapping that on the lower lashes and it gives them a really pretty kind of like violet-y effect to the black. I just dig how it looks. I give her like a little highlight, you know? I'm on to the last few steps of a face up that I do, so I'm taking my metallic rose gold watercolor and I'm tapping that onto the waterline, and then I'm taking white watercolor and I'm tapping that onto the waterline as well, but also tapping some onto the lips and the cheeks. One of the last things I do to this face is I take Vallejo Gloss Varnish and I gloss the lips. Once we're done the face, I begin blushing the body. So I take the same tones that I use on the face, so pinks, blues, browns, and reds, and just blush the body with those. I know a lot of artists don't blush the body, and I think that's perfectly fine, like you do you. But for me, it just feels like there's like a little bit of a disconnect if the face is incredibly detailed and then the body just has like literally no blushing on it. Also, the sculpting on these, specifically these Ever After High bodies, is beautiful. So it almost feels like a missed opportunity, at least for me, to not blush them. I put her head back on her body and there's a little naked self. I'm genuinely surprised that I haven't gotten flagged for like nudity yet. Like, how has Hextion gotten flagged and I haven't? I feel like I'm probably jinxing myself. But anyway, so I start trimming her bangs with my X-Acto blade. She needs her forehead moon, and I have so much nail art gems, and they come in such handy if you guys do dollar paints, by the way, but I have a moon one, so I'm taking Elmer's Glue All, and I'm just gluing that onto her forehead. Oh my god, what a queen! Okay, so elephant in the room, her hair is not long enough, and she has yarn hair, so it's just not gonna be long enough. So we gotta do a hack that I saw Hextion do, where I'm taking a string, and it's the length of the hair that I want it to be, and then I made a bunch of silver wefts. So I'm wrapping the wefts around the string and hot gluing them in place, and that's how we're gonna get this long ass hair. I'm layering those wefts from the bottom up. This is how her hairpiece came out. It is brown cow stunning, and we are going to be taking the excess string and wrapping it around her pigtail. It's called a pigtail, by the way, not a twin tail, all right? I think that's like, maybe that's like a UK thing, I think. It's a pigtail. Why is it called a pigtail? Who knows? Actually, twin tail actually probably makes more sense. Anyway, I'm wrapping the string around her pigtail and I'm gluing that in place with hot glue, and then I'm wrapping the pigtail that I have around the hairpiece pigtail that I made, and I am making her little Sailor Moon buns out of it. And probably could have made them more circular, not gonna lie, but you know what? I did my best, okay? This is how her pigtails turned out, and I dig it, you know? This is a 10 out of 10 for me. I mean, it gives you the look. Her hair looks like, her pigtails look really layered, but it does a job. So I am taking some pomade and I'm kind of trying to like slick that through her pigtails because they're a little bit like big. So I'm trying to make them a little bit smaller. And this is not canon. Well, I don't know if canon's the right word. This is not accurate, I guess, to the character design, because the character's design, her hair is like slightly wavy. It's not really curly, but I thought that the pigtails that I made would look a little bit better curled, because they are a little bit, they look really layered, which is a little strange for a pigtail. So I just went throughout and I curled them with a chopstick, and I heated that up with my hair straightener. And then I curled her little sideburn pieces or side hair pieces on her face, and I curled her bangs as well. On to the clothes, my least favorite part. We're gonna be creating her dress, and her dress was pretty easy, surprisingly easy. I mean, it probably looks pretty easy, but I was like, I don't know, I had higher expectations for how hard it was going to be. So I started by hemming it. I hemmed the top and the bottom. I hemmed the dress with some Fabri-Tac glue, which is seemingly kind of my favorite way to hem things nowadays. It's just really fast. I sewed the dress up the back seam, and I did this a little bit backwards. I didn't bring it all the way up the back seam when I was sewing. I took a break to sew on the ribbon onto the top, the gold ribbon. And for the gold ribbon, this is not exactly what, like, the type of ribbon she has on. I just wanted to get the effect because I wasn't quite sure how to recreate the exact ribbon that she has or where to find it or anything. So I'm just using some pretty gold ribbon and I'm sewing that onto the top as well as pearls. Onto the sleeves, and I'm gonna be honest with you, your guess is as good as mine as to what the heck is going on with these sleeves. I have truly no idea. So I'm just taking a strip of white fabric and I'm just gonna do my thing. So I hem the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to be gather stitching the top and the bottom of the strip of fabric. Okay, so this is what we got. I folded that in half and sewed it together. For the swirly part of the sleeve, I have these Christmas stockings that my friend bought me for my cats, and I'm taking the swirly bit off of them. I'm snapping it off with some wire cutters. I'm hot gluing those swirls onto the sleeves, and I also took some ribbon, some white ribbon, and I wrapped that around the top of the sleeve so it overlaps with the wire, and also a little bit on the bottom, but that part doesn't overlap with the wire. So the dress that she has on has like a flowy bit on the back of it. So I took some of this mesh fabric and I gather stitched the top of it, and then I sewed 2 pieces of it onto the back of the dress. She also seems to have something that looks like kind of wings on the back of the dress, so I took some iridescent fabric and I cut that into the shape of wings and sewed that onto the back of the dress. For her tiara, I took 2 pieces of wire and I wrapped it around a paintbrush to get the shape that I wanted, and then I took a smaller piece of wire and wrapped the 2 pieces of wire together. Now we need to bedazzle it. So she has like a big diamond thing on the middle of it, and the closest thing that I had was this flat back diamond. It's a little too fat, but I figure it does the job. I'm hot gluing that in place, and then I'm hot gluing some pearls to the bottom. I didn't catch this on camera, but when I was wrapping the smaller wire around the 2 bigger wires, I did leave a little bit of a loop out so that I can secure the tiara to her head. I bought a moonstick pendant off of Etsy so that I could steal the charm and use it as her weapon. So I'm taking that and I'm cutting the little loop off the top with some wire cutters. The top got a little bit jacked up, so I took my Arteza gold metallic paint and I touched it up a little bit. I found these Maddie Hatter shoes in my stock box and they were already pretty perfect, so I'm using those as their shoes. And that is my finished Neo Queen Serenity doll. I love her. She's kind of easy to love though if you're obsessed with Sailor Moon like I am. So I'm just adding another doll to my anime babe collection, which currently consists of this doll and Bulma, and that's it. I actually took a photo of her with Bulma because it just made me happy to see my 2 anime loves from when I was a kid together in one photo, or one doll photo. I don't know if I'll make any more Sailor Moon dolls. I inherently want to because there's just so many characters that I just really love the design of. My favorite Sailor Scout, by the way, is Sailor Mars. If you guys have a favorite Sailor Scout, let me know down below. Mine was Sailor Mars because honestly she looked like me when I was 5, so that's pretty much how I liked anything when I was a kid, as if it looked like me, which is why it's so important to have like representation in dolls or media for kids because, I don't know, it just makes them happy, so that's pretty cool. But I also like Black Lady a lot. She's pretty cool too. So if I were to make another one, it would either be Sailor Mars or Black Lady, because they're probably like my second faves. So yeah, if you guys like this video, if you like Sailor Moon, tell me about it, okay? In the comments. Subscribe makes me happy, and I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Bye!